Yo, what's up, everybody? It is Wednesday, December 18th. A lot happened today. As I'm sure you noticed, market was down hard. Fed cut interest rates as expected by 25 basis points. Also, as expected, they said that they were going to now reduce the pace of these. Basically, the message was they're going to reduce the pace of these rate cuts, which translates into saying that they're not going to be cutting rates for a while. Right now, the market is pricing in one more rate cut in 2025. The real kicker, there were a couple of things, a couple of interesting developments. Number one, Powell in his press conference, he painted a really hawkish picture about inflation. And this angers me, I have to be honest, because he's just kind of talking the book of people like Paul Tudor Jones and Stanley Druckenmiller and all these people who are automatically assuming that the new administration, Trump's policies are going to be inflationary. First of all, we don't know fully what policies are going to be adopted and passed, okay? So speculating now on an inflation outlook, especially coming from somebody like the chairman of the Federal Reserve, who everybody looks at, we all sit around our screens, every Fed meeting, waiting to see what they do and what they say. For him to automatically assume that the outlook is one of rising inflation or problematic inflation, that to me is very irresponsible. You cannot make that assessment right now. You simply cannot make that assessment right now, particularly when you have been seeing, the Fed itself has been seeing inflation come down. Not only have they been seeing it, they've been citing the inflation numbers as moving in the direction that they wanted. Okay? So they've been telling us that, and now all of a sudden, see, this is the reason why I think these guys should just shut up and do their fucking jobs, okay? If you want to raise rates, fine. If you want to cut rates, fine. Don't get up in front of a podium and, give these cockamamie explanations where one day you're saying things are moving in our direction, and then you're telling us that, inflation is going to be problematic in 2025. Why? What has changed? A new administration? New policies? Again, we don't know. He doesn't know what the exact policies are going to be. If he's going on this one thing, which is the tariff proposal by Trump, then basically he's just going along with what everybody else is speculating on about what's going to happen. This is very, very irresponsible. So that cratered the market. Then there was another thing that happened, which I think is far more important, because if it was only Powell saying this stupidity, I would be telling you guys, listen, remember I've been talking about this reversion to the mean, where we had the fiscal flow spike at the end of November. We had new highs in all the market averages, and then we started coming down. And I said that was going to happen because we were going to get the flows coming back towards trend, okay, where they spiked up in November as a result of a coincidence of some factors, mainly calendar issue. I said the flows were going to come back down. I still said the flows are very, very significant, but they're going to come down from that spike level that we had in November, and the market would face a pullback, and that's exactly what happened. That's over now, okay? Also, we had that tax drain on Friday and Monday, which I explained yesterday, okay? That was 101 billion tax drain. So you drain the system of funds, people's bank accounts are drained, it leaves the market in a more vulnerable state, okay? That's over. The drain is over, okay? It takes time to replenish that, I understand. Spending is still at a high level, okay? The reversion to the mean in terms of those flows has happened, all right? So normally, I would say to you, and I have been saying, I think yesterday, I said, this pullback now is a buying opportunity. And I would stand by that, except for one new development, which came about late this afternoon. You know, Congress has to pass a continuing resolution by Friday or the government shuts down. And it looked like they had a deal. I say it looked like they had a deal, which actually raised some new spending, which would have been bullish, at least going into up through March, okay? Because don't forget, next year, we're gonna have a double whammy tax strain in April and May, because that was the IRS extension given to hurricane disaster areas, all right? So we're gonna get boom, boom. And that additional spending in the new bill would have, gone pretty far to offset, I think, that double hit. We're going to get the normal April 15th tax payment and then again on May 1st. Here's what happened. Elon Musk chimed in on X saying that the bill is a disaster. Any congressperson, any member of Congress who votes for it is going to get voted out of office in 2 years. You know, the guy's worth $500 billion. He has a PAC. He says he's going to use the money to fund opponents to the MAGA, the MAGA stuff. So when he said that, I don't know when actually that came out. Somebody alerted me to that, and then I went on X and I saw. And it wasn't just him, like Ramaswamy was saying it, and a bunch of people were jumping onto that. And yeah, that's got to happen. And there were even some members of Congress who are now saying, well, we're not going to vote for that. If the continuing resolution is not passed by Friday, government shutdown. Now, this is important for at least two reasons. Number one, in the immediate sense, the government shutdown means that fiscal flows are going to be interrupted. And that's not good. You know, I've been saying to you guys, I've been explaining to you guys that even though the government is running at 7 trillion plus annually, that's only been able to support like a 2.5% to 3% GDP growth rate. If you think about that, I mean, we used to get that growth rate, you know, if you think back to George W. Bush, government was doing like 3.5 trillion annually, and we were getting that kind of growth rate. All right, you don't even have to go that far back to Bush. You can go to Obama, you know, and it was about 4 trillion plus, and we were doing that kind of growth rate. Now it's 7 trillion plus, and we're only getting a 2.5% to 3% growth rate. So, like I've been explaining, like it's taken an enormous amount of energy. If you think of that spending as energy, it's taken an enormous amount of energy to keep that economy in a positive growth mode. If you think about an airplane flying, you don't want it to fall out of the sky, and now it's needing more and more thrust just to stay at the minimum altitude, okay? Before it was able to glide at that altitude, no problem. Now it's taken a massive amount of thrust to stay at that altitude. That's not a good thing. So this continuing resolution, plus it kind of shows like, you know, who's running the government. It seems like Elon Musk is definitely running the government. Like he's talking into Trump's ear and saying, you know, we can't do the CR. And so Trump's now saying, Mike Johnson better not pass this continuing. He better not go for this budget deal. So yeah, that's number one. In the immediate sense, if they shut the government down, that's going to impact fiscal flows, and this, that's going to show up in the economy, and the stock market is going to remain under pressure because of that. All right. Number two, if they do shut it down from pressure from Musk, which flows through Trump, that's given us kind of some evidence or a hint about what policy is going to look like in the new administration. I mean, they're very, very serious. If this happens, and if there's threats to primary sitting members of Congress in the next election, and they cave in on these threats, then this whole spending cut agenda that is being represented by, Musk with his Doge and Ramaswamy, that's going to happen, okay? Because Trump's on board with that. And that, so this gets me back to Powell. How dare he come on with this super hawkish tone about problematic inflation when, the potential is for a very significant economic contraction, which would lead to like a deflation. He has no right. I mean, it's very, very irresponsible what he did today. So here's the bottom line, folks. We got to see what happens by Friday. If these threats by Musk result in an actual government shutdown, then we know how 2025 is going to go and beyond. And it ain't looking good. And I'll tell you this, even if there's going to be tax cuts, which I'm sure there are, you better believe that the tax cuts are going to favor the higher income strata. And those are people who already have money. So their savings, basically, that's where they go, to savings, okay? They're not, they don't go into consumption. It's the middle and the lower income that basically spend all their earnings to survive. They're the ones that the spending cuts will affect the most. And that is, the broad base of consumer spending, which is the largest component of GDP. The second largest happens to be government spending. So if you're cutting both of those things, but it doesn't take a genius to figure out what's going to happen. So the other thing that was, I just got to mention is, once again, these bond zombies selling treasuries on this, maybe some of it based off of the Powell comments, but also they're all in the same boat. They're all in the same, outlook that, all this is inflationary because of the tariffs. This is, again, like a single variable thing they focus on. They don't have the full picture. I don't have the full picture. It's evolving right now. But they're all saying, this is going to be, it's exactly the same when the Fed started raising rates in 2022, and all these same people, all these geniuses were saying it's going to cause a recession. They were universally aligned in that view. All of them. I was the only one who said that's not going to happen. I said, as long as Congress raises the debt ceiling, that's not going to happen, and the market's going to go to new all-time highs. That's exactly what happened. All right? So big stuff happened today. Not so much about the market decline. Again, if it wasn't for what Musk said, and now the threat to keeping the government open, if it wasn't for that, I'd be saying, this is a good buying opportunity, because we've been, the reversion to the mean in the flows has happened, and now it's time to jump back in. I mean, this was, I said this was going to happen because we had this spike and it was going to come back to normal flows. But now I think we might be getting the first hint, the first evidence, the first signs of what policy is going to look like in the new administration. And it leans towards hefty spending cuts. We'll see. I could be wrong. Maybe they come up with something by Friday. Maybe there's a little give and take that Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, he pulls back on something. Maybe the Democrats pull back on something. But we'll see. We'll see. But whatever the outcome is on Friday, we have our first piece of hard evidence of where policy is headed in 2025 and beyond, because you got Musk's threat of, primary against sitting members of Congress. So that means, he could pad the halls of Congress with spending hawks and deficit hawks. That's what he wants, because he believes that we are going bankrupt, which of course is nonsense. He doesn't understand economics. He's good as an engineer. He's a great entrepreneur, but he's way off on this. But like I said, I made a couple of videos. I said, I have a dark side. I hope they do this stuff, because they got to face the consequences of their beliefs and their actions. It's necessary. It's very, very necessary. It's going to hurt all of us. I'll be able to take advantage of it. I'm not saying it's not going to hurt me in some respect, but I know how to play it. I'm telling you right now what to expect, but let's wait and see what happens on Friday. But this is not good news, I can tell you that. Anyway, that's it for today. Please like and subscribe and go to my website, pitbulleconomics.com. Sign up for a 30-day free trial to MMT Trader. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.